Hello Libra, and welcome to a video preview of your 2021-22 Astrology Studio. My name is Eric Francis Compolino. This is usually a reading conducted in audio, but I thought that given that I use a visual device known as the Astrology chart, I would try doing a video preview and basically just showing you the structure of your solar chart and the transits I'm planning to be working in, so that you have an idea of what they are when I'm talking about them in the audio, which is more or less conducted in the dark. And so here we are with the lights on. Now, first, a brief definition of the solar chart. The thing about these readings that I'm doing, the metamorphosis readings, annual readings, studio readings, is I'm doing astrology without the birth time. And there is a big deal made in astrology about having the accurate birth time. Astrology has been very successful at propagandizing this over approximately the past maybe 60 years or so, since the 60s, when astrology became a popular cultural phenomenon. And so there's been this emphasis on having an accurate birth time, which is important for mainly for one type of personal astrology, which is doing the natal chart. So you might wonder what I'm doing here, where I am doing what might be a reading of at least an hour, and sometimes five to 7,000 words in the written reading. How am I doing this without birth time? How am I doing this without an actual birth chart? And there's an answer to that. Now, some of you are old and wise enough to have read the books of Linda Goodman. Linda Goodman was writing generally about the sun signs. And of course, when you're writing generally about the sun signs, you don't have the birth time or date or moon sign or anything like that either. You don't need them because you're writing generally about the sun signs. Patrick Walker, who some of you are old enough and wise enough to remember, who passed away this time of year in 1995, wrote the most brilliant sun sign horoscope ever that was carried by the New York Post and a diversity of other publications. He too was working without the birth time, without the proper natal chart. All the great sun sign astrologers are working with this thing called the solar chart. And what the solar chart is a chart for the sign itself. So now let's see if we can get this to all fit. I'm going to peek out from behind the monitor here, from behind the chart. The solar chart is a chart that starts with Libra in the ascendant. There you go. There's Libra. See that? Look at that. You see that? Libra. And so that means that with whatever's on the first house is your reference sign, and then what I've included are important events and placements that are relevant and germane to now and the immediate future. So think of the solar chart as the chart for the whole sign and not for the person. Maybe think of it, we like to use the word archetypal these days, as a chart for the archetype of the sign. And the chart for the archetype of the sign is applicable to anyone or anything born under that sign. How applicable? That's up to you in the end, but astrology is largely an interpretation. I have to take this information here and then say something about it. It doesn't help you very much if I say, well, you've got this triple conjunction of Ixion, Pholus, and Quaoar located in your fourth house, which is Capricorn. Like, okay, thanks a lot. Tell me what that's about. So my job is to translate these basic fundamental facts of astrology, which are the placements and transits, which are factual, those not interpretive, and then to make some kind of relevant comment that is in some way going to potentially be meaningful or helpful to you. So let's go over a few of the things that I'll be looking at to do this reading. I'll just take a few minutes here, and maybe you'll find it interesting. And if you acquire the rest of the reading, you'll have a a visual that you can refer back to and kind of get a sense of what I'm doing and how I'm handling myself. All right, so in this chart, first of all, in the sign Libra, we're working with a couple of different things. One of which is a very slow mover called Logos, Logos. I forget when Logos was discovered, probably sometime around 2000. And it's got one of those 300-year type orbits. It's out where, a little bit past where Pluto is. And Logos in your sign for the long run is telling me that you are in a process of acquiring the conceptual and psychological tools to make sense of your world. This is not an accident. When you are able to apply a kind of a logic, which is the root of logos is the root of the word logic. Logos is also the root of astrology. It's the logic, astrologos. It's the logic of the planets, and it is also a reference for what I would call the framework of reasoning and logic, which is an internal frame of reference, which is about learning how to have the conceptual tools to sort out what you are perceiving as chaotic though it may be. You have these internal tools that you can work with, and those are represented in Logos. Logos is a very slow mover. It's going to be in your sign at least another 15 years. And it is there, and you might say that it is running in the background of everything. And so remember that part of who you are aspiring to be is someone who can make sense out of your experience. And I don't mean this in a reductionist way, where you're shrinking down everything into kind of a cookie-cutter logic that is, frankly, quite frightening. I think the world is committing suicide with Occam's razor, thinking that the only thing that works is something that's simple. Well, sometimes things are true that can be complicated. Usually, when you're sorting out deception, you find out that the deception is very complicated, and there are things that are perfectly valid and true that also require a level of the ability to handle things on multiple levels, and to have the internal frame of reality to do that. That's your business. That's your thing. It's not a thing that's just available in the world like picking an apple off of a tree. Whether you know it's a poison apple or not, that's based on your internal knowledge and understanding. Okay, so that's a long-term visitor. I'm going to cover a few other. Most of what I do in these readings is I look at long-term visitors to things, so that that there is a sense of context. Okay, so now one thing going on in there's two major events in Libra. One of them is on October the 6th, that's Wednesday, and then another one is it takes place overnight, October 8th to 9th. That's, I believe, Friday into Saturday. Let's handle the first one first. The first one first is a triple conjunction of the moon and the sun and Mars in Libra in your solar first house. First house if you are Libra rising. And by the way, my readings work very well for the rising sign. They work equally well for the sun sign, but the rising sign gets left out of sun sign astrology quite a bit. So this would be a garden variety new moon in Libra, except that it's exactly conjunct Mars. And that is relevant because it involves the Mars-Sun cycle. And we know that, for example, though I'm not going to interpret this quite exactly, we're exactly halfway between Mars retrogrades. So there's something up with the Mars cycle. But I think that to have Moon, Sun, Mars in a conjunction like that, and then I'll take this down. Moon, Sun, and Mars in a conjunction, all at 13 degrees, looks like. Yep, 13 degrees. See that? They're all lined up. Is saying that what you want to do is get clear about what you want. Mars is always about what you want. Mars is always about your intention. And one of the themes of the times that we are in is the frightening way in which, first of all, individual intention is being downgraded to being worthless. And then there's a thing that is about Libra, which is about our personal relationships. That's what Libra's about. It's about our one-on-one partnerships, whatever form that they may take. Mars is also about our one-on-one partnerships, and Sun and the Moon are about our very personal feelings about things. And so with Sun, Moon, Mars, and Libra, we're down to our very private personal intentions regarding relationships, intimate relationships. And what I'm here to put you on notice of is that there are many factors right now, governmental, cultural, corporate factors that are breaking the precedent of being overly concerned with the very most private affairs of your personal life. And it is concerning that people are accepting this. And I am here to say that it is up to you to keep what is personal, personal. It is up to you to decide that there is a boundary around your intimate partnerships, and you have a right to work out with people the details of those partnerships. And what's very troubling is the extent to which the affairs of the world are getting between people. They're getting between people in their private situations, and there is a let's say the nanny state gone completely mad, attempting to influence the deepest, most sensitive affairs of one's private life. Now, in the 60s, it was said that the personal is political, and in the 60s, it was said that there's not any private life that's not in some way influenced by a wider public life. But we are down to every aspect of our lives being influenced by the larger public life. For example, I read an article last night about how the cryptocurrency craze is coming to a central bank near you. Only the new crypto is not going to be like Bitcoin, which you can use to buy a home or a car or heroin or a prostitute or to pay your library fine. Rather, this is going to be a programmable cryptocurrency, whereas your boss might pay you in a cryptocurrency that can only be used for things your boss approves of. And so this reminded me how much of our private volition, Mars, our ability to make the choices we want, Mars, is being or attempting to be dictated by people who are inappropriately placed in public roles and deciding things we should be deciding. Okay, so that's happening. Now, making a long story short, there's an even more interesting event on Saturday, and that is the Sun conjunct Mars, conjunct Mercury retrograde. So the Sun-Mars conjunction holds through the week because the Sun and Mars are moving a little bit similar speeds. So now here we have a second conjunction involving the Sun. The Moon has moved on. The Moon has moved on to Sagittarius. Venus has moved on to Sagittarius. The reading was going to include interpretations of both Mars, Venus in Scorpio and in Sag. But the second major event is Mars conjunct the Sun, conjunct retrograde Mercury. And this is saying that there's now an overlap between the Sun-Mars cycle, the Sun-Mercury cycle, and the Mercury-Mars cycle, 3 cycles overlapping at the same time. And this to me is an example, a rare example, of a personal planet event, i.e. a quick mover event that is going to be manifesting as a kind of a before and after moment. Usually it's the outer planets that do this. And so here we have 2 major events in Libra, a new moon conjunct Mars, and then a kind of a Mercury-Mars-Sun, Mercury retrograde Mars-Sun conjunction in Libra. This is saying something's up. And we're going to look at the relationship of Mars, the ruler of your opposite sign, being in your sign, kind of the opposite of projection there, a kind of introjection, or possibly a partner attempting in some way to impose their will upon you. Only you know if that's true. All right, a couple of other things I'm going to look at. The opposite sign of Libra is Aries, and in Aries are three long-term players. One of them is Salacia. We'll include the article that I wrote about Salacia. And then there's Chiron. That's going to be in for about another 4 years in Aries. And these are important long-term visitors. And then Eris, that's been there since the late 1920s, so almost a century, and will be there about another 25 years. So I'll have a lot to say about the presence of Eris in Aries, as well as Chiron and Salacia. This is talking about an important phase of healing in your intimate relationships that really is about your private business and not about the business of anyone else. I'm still getting used to this new, much nicer video system. I've gotten off the built-in bullshit camera in the iMac. All right, so now also family business, very important stuff going on involving family business. Family is covered a few places in the chart, but the most important one is house number 4. Let's pull in close there. House number 4. It's right there. It's in mirror image. House number 4. House number 4 is about security. It's about the roof over your head, the 4 walls that surround you, and conceptually the 4 walls of whether you feel safe being where you are. So I'm going to look at that and the story of going back now to 2008, the story of Pluto moving through your 4th, and the square. Here's how this looks. Let's get something to draw this with, because I didn't draw in the aspects here. Oh, I did draw in the aspects. Well, let's just put it into pink. So when I'm talking about the square between Pluto in the 4th and Eris in the 7th, this is the theme that I'll be developing of the way in which family influences have an impact on your personal relationships, and that the thing underlying it all is why and whether or not you personally feel safe. So again, I'm not interpreting here. That I will save for the audio reading. One other major, well, let's go 2 other major points. Planet Uranus up here in the 8th house. In the 8th, sorry, I got to figure out how to do this. Uranus in the 8th house. Taurus. This is shaking up. The contractual commitment level of your relationship. So there's some agitation going on there, and there may be other people involved, and you may be finding that your situation is no longer strictly monogamous for whatever reason, and the question is how do you handle that? Additionally, I am tracking up here in the 10th house a couple of trans-Neptunian points. In most particularly is Kronos. These are planets without bodies, and Kronos is about the need to be a VIP of some kind, and particularly in the 10th, it's about importance and self-importance, and so there's caution there, and also temptation, and also a characterization of how you respond to people who claim to be important. Okay, and finally, I'll be covering the retrograde of Venus in Capricorn. I could have mentioned that when I was on Capricorn, but at the end of the year and into January, there's a retrograde of Venus. So now my job in the audio part of this is to tie this all together into a cohesive presentation. But as you can see, even without your proper birth chart, there's plenty going on to interpret. Astrology is holographic. The whole is contained in the part is contained in the whole, and it's possible to do even a very good partial reading of a chart and pick up on themes that are applicable to your whole life, to the whole chart. And remember, this approach to astrology works brilliantly for sun and rising signs, and many people say it works well for their moon sign. If you want to know your rising sign, write to us at cs@planetwaves.net, and we will look up your rising sign. I'm going to take a short break and then go back to record, select some music, and record the Libra reading, and present this in advance and also right along with it. Thank you for your business and your trust. Please do check out your sign in the Metamorphosis series of readings. I don't know where you're seeing this, but if you go to planetwaves.tv, you'll see that's our YouTube channel. There's plenty of different introductions. All 12 signs have introductions for the Metamorphosis reading. All right, once again, thanks for your time and your trust, and stay in touch.